All right, this is the last example in your section 3.1 notes. I just wanted to cover with you. You've got a few problems on your homework that will involve this type of problem. So it's really, as you can tell, it's going to be 8 separate answers by the time we're all finished. So let me just walk you through this. Letter A says to take these two functions that are called, they're given to us as f and g, and it says to add them together. You could also think of this in a different way. It means the same thing, but it's like taking the f of x function and adding it to the g of x. So what I'm showing you here is two different ways of explaining the same operation on these functions. So what this amounts to on letter A is really just combining like terms. We take 3x plus 4, which is the f function, and we add to that the g function, which is 2x minus 3. And when we combine like terms, the x's would be 3 plus 2, which is 5x. And the constants, 4 plus negative 3 is 1. So my answer for letter A is 5x plus 1. For letter B, it's using those same functions, but as you can tell, now we're going to be subtracting. So the f function is 3x plus 4, and we're going to be subtracting from that the g function, which is 2x minus 3. You do have to be careful with subtraction because if you wanted to just drop the parentheses, you would have to, on the right, this g function, you would have to distribute -1 to both of these terms. So -1 times 2x is negative 2x, and -1 times negative 3 is positive or plus 3. So be careful with subtraction. It can be a little tricky. You're subtracting both of these, which I would just encourage you to go ahead and distribute -1 to both, and then you don't have to worry about parentheses. So 3 minus 2 is 1x, and 4 plus 3 is 7. And there's the answer for letter B. Letter C is, just kind of separate these out a little bit. Letter C says to take the two and multiply them together. So this is where we're going to utilize the FOIL method. Two binomials, these are two different expressions that have two terms each, and so this is where we use FOIL. So the first two terms multiply together. 3x times 2x is 6x squared, and then we take the outside terms and multiply them together. 3x times -3, negative 9x. The inside terms multiplied, 4 times 2x is positive 8x. And then the last two terms, 4 times -3 is negative 12. You combine the like terms in the middle if you can. And in this case, -9 plus 8 is -1x, and then minus 12. And so there's my answer for part C. And part D says to divide the f function by the g function. So the f function is going to go on top, and then the g function is going to go on the bottom. And since we can't cancel anything and nothing factors, if you could factor and cancel, you definitely want to, but in this case, I can't factor either one of these, and I can't cancel anything, so that ends up being my answer. Now, before we move on to parts E through H, notice that the instructions say for parts A through D, also find the domain. So the domain is going to be pretty easy if you do not have a radical or you don't have a fraction where a variable is in the denominator. So for letter A, since I don't have a fraction or a radical, it's going to be all real numbers. True for B as well, all real numbers. Letter C, same thing. There's no fraction, no radical, so you can just say all reals. That's not an 8, that should be positive infinity. Now, letter D is different. We talked about these in the previous slides, earlier lesson, here we have to avoid division by 0, so I have to identify numbers that could go in for x that would create 0 in the denominator. So I'll find that number by doing this little equation. So I just set the denominator equal to 0, and when I solve it, I get x is 3 over 2. So I'm going to state the domain as this. For letter D, it could be any x except for 3 over 2. All right, so that's my final answer using for A through D, including the domain for each one. All right, so let me see if I can squeeze in the answers for E through H, because we'll come up here. We did most of the work for letter E when we did part A. We already did the addition of F and G. Now all we have to do to get the answer for part E is go back to that answer for letter A, that was 5x plus 1, and input 3 in for x. So my answer for letter E literally is going to be like this, 5 times 3 plus 1, so that should be 16. And then letter F is similar. I go back to the answer that I got previously when I subtracted these. I got x plus 7, and I input 4 in for x. So it'd be like, instead of x plus 7, it's going to be 4 plus 7. So my answer for letter F is 11. All right, so for letter G, I go to the answer that I got for letter C. So here's my answer for letter C, and in place of x, notice I'm going to put 2. So this is going to be kind of tight, but I'll see if I can do it. 6 times 2 squared minus 2 minus 12. All right, so we just got to do the math. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. Minus 2 is 22. Minus 12 is 10. So my answer for letter G is going to be 10. And then letter H, excuse me, maybe I can just come up here. The screen's getting kind of crowded. For letter H, just like you did before, go to the answer that you got for letter D, and you're just going to input 1. So let's put our answer for H right here. So it's like 3 times 1 plus 4 over 2 times 1 minus 3. And when we simplify this, 3 plus 4 is 7. And 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So the final answer for letter H will be negative 7. So we got all of the answers. You don't have to do the domain for the E through H part. You just have to plug in whatever's given and into what you got for the previous 4 letters. So hopefully that helps. That will take care of all you're going to be asked to do, the types of problems that you're going to be asked to do in the remainder of the section 3.1 homework. And if you have any questions on that, let me know.